Now inshallah we will continue from where we stopped in the Muqaddimah Hadramiyyah. So we are still in the integrals of prayers, and this is the most important chapter in the chapter of ibadah. That is about the integrals of prayers. So in our last lesson, we were speaking about the recitation of the Fatiha. So the author mentioned that recitation of the Fatiha is obligatory. This is one of the pillars of prayers, and it has to be recited. It cannot be just in the heart, but it has to be recited. So this is in Arabic, we call it rukunun qawli. Rukunun qawli. And in prayers, there are 5 rukunun qawli. So we have the recitation of the takbir, the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha, and then we have tashahud akhir, salawat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tashahud akhir, and then we have the first salam. So here the author mentioned al-rabi', the fourth integral, al-fatihatu illa li ma'dhurin li sabqin wa ghayrihi. So it is wajib upon a person to recite the Surah Al-Fatiha, except if there are excuses. And one of the excuses being a masbuq. Being a masbuq. Masbuq is a person who does not have enough time to recite the Fatiha. So if a person enters into prayer and the imam does the ruku', then the ma'mum does the ruku' with the imam without reciting any Fatiha. If he is reciting any Fatiha, imam does the ruku', then he does the ruku' with the imam and he leaves any Fatiha. Because in this situation we say that the imam Fatiha is enough, suffices. The imam reciting the Fatiha on behalf of the ma'mum. On behalf of the ma'mum. So this is one of the situation where we say that the ma'mum does not recite Fatiha, that it is not obligatory for the ma'mum to recite any Fatiha. So this is an example of the masbuq. And then the author mentioned wal basmalatu wa tashdidatu allati fiha minha. The basmala is from Fatiha. This in our mother Imam Shafi'i. We have to recite the basmala, and we have to affirm that the basmala is from Fatiha. So there are two things here. We have to affirm that basmala is from the Fatiha. So if a person recite any basmala, but he does not affirm that basmala is from Fatiha, the Fatiha is not valid. Fatiha is not valid. So he has to affirm that the basmala is from the Fatiha and he recite the basmala. What tashdidat? There are 14 tashdidat. I think I mentioned this last week. So when we recite the tashdid, we have to emphasize and we have to give any emphasis, because tashdid represents 2 letters. Wala yasihu ibdalu dha'i an ad-dad, and the change of the pronunciation cannot happen. And he gave an example ad-dha and dad. A person say wala dhalin, instead of wala dhalin, wala dhalin. So this changes the meaning, so that it is not valid. So it is wala dhalin. So we cannot change the pronunciation of a particular letter to another letter. If it changes the meaning, it is not valid. وَيُشْتَرَطُ عَدَمُ اللَّحْنِ الْمُخِلْ بِالْمَعْنَى. And also you cannot do lahan. Lahan is basically to make mistakes on the strokes. A person say أَنْعَمْتُ عَلَيْهim, instead of saying أَنْعَمْتَ, he said أَنْعَمْتُ. Now this is lahan. Lahan meaning you change the stroke. You change the stroke. So changing of the strokes changes the meaning, and we changes the meaning, then the Fatiha will not be valid. So al-mukhil lil ma'na, it gives it changes the meaning. Wal muwalatu fatanqati'u al-fatihatu bis-sukuti at-tawil. Wajib muwala meaning there must be continuity. So when we recite any Fatiha, it must be continuous. We cannot be reciting any Fatiha iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, and then we kept quiet for a long time, we ponder upon the meaning. For example, some people saying, I want to reflect upon the meaning. No, this is not the way. reflection any of the meaning is while you are reciting. But you cannot stop and then you reflect. If it is Surah Al-Fatiha, your Fatiha will not be valid. Because if there is no continuity, your Fatiha will not be valid. You need to recite the Fatiha without any reason. Without any reason, any reason to stop. So that also will make the Fatiha not valid. So here the author mentioned even the stoppage is is a small stoppage time. There is the intention to break the recitation or with remembrance. A person, for example, say Alhamdulillah wa iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, Alhamdulillah, or you say Subhanallah, or you say Allahu Akbar, for example. So this is zikr. In between there is zikr. So now you break the continuity. So what must you do? You need to recite the Fatiha again. So that is the thing. You need to recite the Fatiha again. Illa idha kana nasiyan, unless if a person forgets, is forgiven. Wa illa idha sunna fi salati ka ta'min wa ta'awuz wa su'ali rahma wa sujudi tilawa li qira'ati imamihi wa raddi alayh. So there are certain situations that a person can continue despite there is some stoppage. So there are things that are excluded. So here the author is saying there are certain things that are exceptional. So he mentioned illa idha kana nasiyan, this is one of it. And if he forgets for example, he forgets that he's reciting Fatiha and then he remembers, it is forgiven. And then he's reciting the Amin. He's reciting, he is reciting the Amin. If he is reciting the Amin, this is also forgiven. He can continue recite the Fatiha. Or he come across for example verses, the Imam reciting any verses of the Quran for example, and then comes the verses of adab. So you say a'udhu billahi min dhalik, or a'udhu billahi min adab nar, and I seek refuge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the punishment of the hellfire. So while he is reciting Fatiha, the Imam reciting this particular verse and he says ta'awuz, so this is permissible. He can continue his Fatiha. Likewise, when the Imam is reciting, for example, verses of Rahmah, so he said, Allahumma ja'alna minhum, for example, Allah make us amongst them. So this is permissible and he can continue. Or likewise, sujud tilawa, while he's reciting Fatiha, the Imam does sujud tilawa. So he does sujud tilawa with the Imam, and then after that he continues with the Fatiha. Li qira'ati imamihi, while the Imam is doing the recitation. Wa raddi alayhi, meaning the Imam makes any mistakes for example, so he say the verse, say out the verse, and so that the Imam can remember the mistake. Some Imam, for example, when they are reciting the Quran and in prayers, they make mistakes in recitation. They skip one verse for example. So the ma'mum has to do this wa raddu alayhi, to remind the Imam about certain mistakes. So this is also excuse that a person can continue with the recitation of Al-Fatiha. So basically the author is saying that there are certain things that are exceptional, that a person can still continue recitation of the Fatiha despite doing some of the things that are mentioned. But otherwise there is no continuity, he has to recite the Fatiha again. So that is pertaining to the recitation of the Fatiha. So what is important in recitation of the Fatiha? It has to be recited, as what we mentioned. The pronunciation is important, and it must be continuous. And then he mentioned wal khamisu ar-ruku'. The fifth integral is to do the ruku'. And the minimum in ruku' he say an yanhaniya hatta tanala rahatahu rukbatayhi. So the minimum in ruku' is that his palms touches the knees. His palms touches the knees. So this bending is the minimum. Of course, the best is the body is parallel to the ground. The body is straightened up. While he's doing the ruku', inclusive of the head. It is in proportion with the body and parallel to the ground. وَيُشْتَرَطُ أَنْ يَطْمَئِنَّ. And one of the conditions is that there must be tuma'nina, that a person must perform any ruku, and there must be a pause. This is the meaning of tuma'nina. There must be a pause. Bihaisu tastakiru a'da'uhu. The pause in a way that the body is silent. Yani, a person does any ruku, so he pauses in a way that the body does not move. Tamam? The body is still, and it must be in what you call it, a moment in time. Some ulama mentioned the qadr of saying subhanallah. So when we are saying subhanallah, not too fast, not too slow, subhanallah. So this is the amount of time, the minimum amount of time that the person be in a state of tuma'nina. This is what is meant by tuma'nina. So the author mentioned وَيُشْتَرَطُ وَيَتْمَئِنَّ بِحَيْثُ تَسْتَقِرُّ أَعْضَاؤُهُ وَأَنْ لَا يَقْصِدَ بِهِ غَيْرَهُ. Another condition of doing any ruku is that you should not intend other than ruku. For example, if you are qiyam and then you see a ball is coming towards you, so you, in order for you to protect yourself from being hit by the ball, you bow down. Right? And then after you bow down, you say, now I want, since I've already recited my Fatiha, might as well I make the intention of ruku. This is not valid. Why? Because you are bowing down not for the sake of ruku. Not for the sake of ruku. You are bowing down to save yourself from the oncoming danger. So what happens is that you must go up again, and then you intend to bow. You intend to do the ruku. Then only it is valid. So there must be qasd. There must be intention that you are doing this ruku and not other things. Falau hawa litilawati. So now the author gave this example. Falau hawa litilawati. He gave the example a person is reciting the Quran, and then he comes to the verse of sajda, and he wants to do sajda to tilawa. So on the way to do sajda to tilawa, when he reached the level of ruku, he decided to ruku. Now this is not valid. This is what the author said. Falau hawa litilawati faja'alahu ruku'an lam yakfihi. So if he goes down to do sujud sajda to tilawa, and when he is at the boundary of ruku, he makes the intention to be as ruku. Now this is not valid. Why? Because his intention is not for ruku. What is his intention? His intention is to do the sajda. His intention is to do what? His intention is to do the sajda. So that is why it is not valid, because there is no intention to do the ruku. So he has to go up again and then go down to ruku. So this is point number 5. So the minimum ruku is that the hands touches the knees. Tamam? The hands touches the knees. So this kind of bending is the minimum. Number 6, he says as-sadisu al-i'tidal wa huwa an ya'uda ila ma kana alayhi qablahu wa shartuhu at-tuma'nina. Al-i'tidal is the standing after ruku. So normally we say Sami Allahu liman hamida. So after we do our ruku, we stand. So the conditions of standing must be there. We stand in a way that our body is straight. Tamam? Wa huwa an ya'uda ila ma kana alayhi qablahu. Before we do the ruku, we are also qiyam, so we return back to this qiyam. Wa shartuhu at-tuma'nina. The only wajib in i'tidal is standing and to be in tuma'nina, in the pause, the momentary pause. So the qadr, the minimum requirement is the amount of reciting subhanallah. The amount of reciting subhanallah. Then the same thing he mentioned wa alla yaqsida bihi ghayrahu. This is exactly the same when we speak about ruku', that he must intend i'tidal. So if he goes up because he is shocked to see a snake, for example, while he's doing ruku', and he immediately stood up because of he was shocked, for example, this is not enough. He need to go down again and go up again, because his intention is not to do i'tidal. فَلَوْ رَفَعَ رَأْسَهُ فَزِعًا مِنْ شَيْءٍ لَمْ يَكْفِي. So exactly as what I mentioned, when he goes up to i'tidal because of fear of something, then it is not enough. It is not enough because there is no intention. As-sabi', the 7th integral, as-sujud marratain. To do the sujud 2 times. To do the sujud how many times? to do the sujud any 2 times. Wa aqalluhu an yada'a ba'da basharati jabahatihi ala musallah. So the minimum and the requirement any for sujud, that he must touch part any of the forehead any to the ground. Touch any part any of the forehead any to the ground. So it is not necessarily that the whole forehead any be on the ground, but part of it. But it should not be covered. It cannot any be covered. So this is any the first requirement. The first any condition is that the forehead must be on the ground. And likewise any the 7 body parts, any the 2 hands, the 2 knees, and the 2 feet. Wa syartuhu tuma'nina, same thing. Tuma'nina ini is a condition for many any of these integrals. We spoke about tuma'nina in what? In ruku', tuma'nina in i'tidal, tuma'nina in sujud. So there must be any this momentary pause, the minimum any of subhanallah. Tuma'nina wa wad'u juz'in min rukbatayhi, and part any of the knees and it must be on the ground. Wa juz'un min butuni kaffayhi, yani pertaining any to the palms, any part any of the palms. So even any if a person makes sujud on one finger like this is valid. So in any part any of the palms. So any palms here meaning from on top any of these fingers any all the way any to the white area. All the way to the white area here. Tamam. So this is any the palms. So we have any to put any our palms any on the ground, any minimum as what I mentioned, any part any of the palms. Wa juz'in min butuni kaffayhi wa asabi'i rijlayhi, and part any of the feet. Part any of the feet. So the feet any meaning any the bottom part of the feet. So when we are doing our sujud, the bottom part of the feet must be on the ground. So we should not any make the mistake any of like making sujud like this or like this, but it's like this. We have to press a bit so that any the bottom part any touches any the ground, and the bottom part any of our toes. So I hope it's clear, inshallah. And then watasaqulu ra'sihi, and when comes any to the forehead, there must be some pressure. We cannot any be putting any our forehead just to touch base, not valid. So we must press any a bit, just like our scholars any mentioned that if you press any on a cotton, it goes down. So there must be some any form any of pressure. Wa adamul huwi li ghayrihi, and same thing pertaining to sujud, and you should not any make sujud any with the intention any of something else. If a person is doing qiyam any i'tidal, and then he saw a ball coming towards him, and then he quickly and he make any sujud to avoid any that ball, that is not enough. Because why? You are going down and not for the sake of sujud, so you have to go up again and do the sujud again. So all this any inshallah is straightforward. I do not want to take any a lot of time any to explain any. Usually any in my class, any physical class, usually sometimes any I do demonstration and all these things, and sometimes any I will take any more time. But when it comes any to online, any I try any to be brief any as much any as possible, any so that easy any for people any to follow. I do not want any to talk any too much and speak any about some differences. Otherwise any you might any lose any focus. So I hope any it is clear, inshallah ta'ala. And as I mentioned also in some of my Facebook any postings, and if you have any questions, if you are listening any to the recordings and not live, and you have questions, and you can also ask me, no problem. What I mean in the future, yani. Then he mentioned wartifa'i asafilihi ala a'alihi wa adamu sujud ala shay'in yataharraku biharakatihi illa an yakuna fi yadihi. So another condition is that our body must be above our heads, and when we are doing sujud, our body must be above in our heads. What is the meaning in our body must be above? Imagine we are doing sujud like this. This is the head. Okay, so this is our back. So can you see this? This is above this. This is the head. Tamam. So our body is this. This is our back. This is our back. So our back is above our head. This is the condition in sujud. But what happens if your head is here and your back is like this? This can only be if you are making sujud on a hill. You are making sujud on a steep and a hill that is very steep. If it comes until this way, then your sujud is not valid. Your sujud is not valid. So minimum the back and it must be above yani the head. This is the meaning. Irtifa'u asafilihi, yani the back ala alihi, yani must be above yani on the top. That is yani the head. Wa adamu sujud ala shay'in yataharraku bi harakatihi ila an yakuna fi yadihi. And we cannot make sujud on something that moves any for movement. For example, I cannot make sujud on my turban because the turban moves with my movement. Correct or not? The turban moves with my movement. I cannot make sujud, but I can make sujud any on what you call it sajda, because it does not move any with with my any turban. So if it is attached any to me, likewise, if it is attached any to me, then it moves any with my movement. I cannot any make sujud. This is what the author any mentioned. Illa an yakuna. He said that wa adamu sujud ala shay'in yataharraku bi harakatihi illa an yakuna fi yadihi. Except any then what you call it, if it moves any with it moves any with his hand. It doesn't move any with the body, but it moves any with the hand. So this is any permissible. But if something any moves any with our body, meaning that we are wearing it, then it will not any be valid. Wallahu alam, any bisawab, any because of time, any we stop here and we'll continue any next week inshallah ta'ala. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhaban nar. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.